You have just started a brand new episode of the Energy is Love podcast. Congratulations and thank you. Go to our website, energyislovepodcast.com. Obviously, from that point, you can find everything out about this show. It's got links to where you can listen and download episodes, links to our Facebook page, which if you aren't following us on Facebook, I highly recommend that you do. Go hop on to your laptop or mobile device. I don't know anybody that uses a laptop. Well, I use a laptop for a lot of things, but pick up your phone, find the Energy is Love podcast, like it, follow it, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And thank you. And now it's time for me to take a moment and thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to put out episodes and host and do all the different things that we do. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. We have a new sponsor for the podcast. I'm super excited about these guys. It is EntheoZen. EntheoZen is a supplement company that was started back in 2014 by a neurobiologist, Caitlin Thompson. Caitlin was struggling with some of her own depression and anxiety, and she was looking for a way to kind of enhance her own overall well-being and health. So EntheoZen creates products designed for promoting optimal brain health as well as overall happiness. The neat thing about EntheoZen is all the ingredients that they use to produce and create their supplements are scientifically studied ingredients with premium active forms of vitamins, minerals, all with the purpose to ensure bioavailability and maximum absorption. So they have products like Transcend, which is a mood enhancement and also can be used as a meditation aid. It's designed to promote optimal brain health and resilience. So take Transcend before your yoga class, before you sit down to do your meditation, before you hop in the tank and float, and you're going to see how it can add to that experience and help to kind of boost you to the next level. You can go find out all about the company themselves as well as all the products that they have at their website. It's entheozen.com. That's ENTHEOZEN, entheozen.com. Go check them out. You can also purchase EntheoZen directly through Amazon, which is incredibly slick and easy. So whether you go to the website or you go to Amazon, once you're there and you decide what you're going to go with, I highly recommend the Transcend. And then at checkout, make sure you enter the promo code ENERGYIS. That is the special promo code for Energy is Love podcast listeners. You enter that and save 10%. So it's a wonderful deal. Great opportunity. This episode is also brought to you by EssentialOilAccessories.com. So we all know about essential oils. We all know the amazing benefits that they have. At EssentialOilAccessories.com, you can find things to help in the process of using oils every day. So they have things like oil diffusers, organizers, kits and things like that that you can organize all your oils with, diffuser necklaces, bracelets. A lot of really amazing products, some really good deals. Go check them out. It's EssentialOilAccessories.com. As always, all of our sponsors can be found on our website. If you go to energyislovepodcast.com and click on the sponsors tab, you will then find all of these sponsors. And you can click on the links, go to the websites, find their products. Support these guys because they're the ones that are supporting the podcast. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. On this episode of the podcast, it's a little bit different than an episode we've done in the past. It's kind of it's not different. It's the same damn show. But on this episode is a dear friend of mine. His name is Josh Harris. Him and his wife, Misty, sat down and we kind of did a roundtable discussion. It was the two of them and then me and Stephanie, my wife. And the reason I wanted to have Josh and Misty come on the show is Josh has been in law enforcement for coming up on 10 years. So that's actually how him and I know each other. We started together back in the day and went through the academy together to become correctional officers. Him and I both started inside of a jail working as correctional officers, and that's kind of the experience that we have that we bonded over, I guess. But I wanted to have Josh come on and talk about some of the realities of having a career and a life in law enforcement, what it is really like to deal with the stresses and the trauma and the different things that you experience in those environments. And then I wanted to bring the perspective of spouses, and that's why we had our wives sit down and join us as well, so they can give you a little bit of insight into what it's like to be married to somebody who's in law enforcement. So it was a really good episode. It was a lot of fun. We got to record up at Josh's home. They live up in the mountains up here in Utah. and just a beautiful cabin up in the mountains. That's where we got to sit down and record and hang out and visit, and such a wonderful time. I think it turned out to be a really good episode. Even if you're not in law enforcement or in any way, I think you'll definitely find some benefit because the topics and the things that we discussed are really applicable to just life in general, moving through life and coping and dealing with the stresses of relationships and issues that everybody kind of faces. So as always, I hope you guys enjoy this episode like every episode of the podcast for the universe. And now you get to sit back and enjoy this beautiful episode with my wife, Stephanie, and our dear friends, Josh and Misty Harris. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
And that's it. There we go. Now we're live with the podcast. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody's got to take a chance. So we have quite a few people on the podcast today, and I'm really excited. I love doing these episodes when we have multiple people because we get everybody's perspective and everybody's input. So it's a wonderful thing. I'll take the moment to kind of introduce everybody, and then you guys obviously have to do a little bit of introduction, which is like the shittiest thing in podcasting where you have a guest come on and they're like, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. It's really lazy on the guest's part, but we'll do it just in this instance so then everybody has a chance to kind of understand who the hell's talking. Obviously, first and foremost, my beautiful wife, Stephanie.
Hi.
And Steph's been on the podcast before, so we know a little bit about Steph and things like that. And I talk about Steph all the time. I realize that like a lot of times during episodes when I'm talking to people, I always reference my wife, or I reference this, or I reference that. But I'm glad that you're on the podcast once again, baby.
Thank you.
And we got our big episode coming up too.
Yes.
I don't know if people realize this, but episode 88. I have no idea what episode this is, but soon, episode 88, it's going to be Steph and I again sitting down and doing another episode together. So that's a lot of fun. Misty, I'll let you introduce yourself. First, I guess our guests today on the podcast are Josh and Misty Harris. Josh is a really good, sweet, dear friend of mine for, what did we decide? Like 10 years or something like that. But
Yeah, at least.
yeah. And so him and his wife are sitting down today on the podcast. So Misty, go ahead. A little bit.
Been married to Josh for 16 years, been together for 20 years.
If you guys have
Have
known
two
each
kids.
other for 20 years, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'll
No, you're
probably do it a lot.
Okay, cool.
If you guys have known each other for 20 years, how old were you guys when you guys met?
19.
19.
18,
Just
19.
turned
So
19.
1998.
Like right after our
Yeah,
birthday.
right after high school, yeah.
Yeah. And you've been married for 16, but you guys have been together essentially for 20 years.
Mhm. Just about 20.
My grandma married her grandpa, and that's how we met.
Grandpa and Grandma hooked us
Yeah,
up.
you gotta.
So
We are in Utah, so you gotta keep it in the family.
Second cousins.
Right.
Josh, obviously people have heard your voice, but give them a little bit about you as well.
Josh Harris, 38 years old. Lived in Utah my whole life. Been married to Misty here for 16 years. Been with her almost 20 years. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
That's honestly a long time. I mean, kudos to you guys.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
incredible.
That's a really, really good thing. You don't see that very often nowadays where people not only have been together that long, but married that long. And anybody out there that's married obviously knows how big of a challenge that is to not only stay married. I mean, when I say stay married that long, it's a beautiful thing, right? You guys obviously love each other, but regardless of how much you love each other, marriage is challenging and
Oh,
hard.
Absolutely.
We've had our ups and downs, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, first off, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode, I'll kind of give everybody an idea. If you listen to the podcast and if you're a fan of the podcast, obviously you've heard over whatever episode or episodes where I talk about I was in law enforcement. I used to be a police officer. Before that, I worked inside correctional facility, so I was a correctional officer. So I have a little bit of history and experience inside of law enforcement. It's shaped and molded who I am today and has played so many different roles in regards to kind of that dynamic. And one of the things that I wanted to do on the podcast, in a sense, is I know we cover spirituality and energy and chakras and the universe and all sorts of wonderful things with the show, but I also like to highlight and bring awareness and talk about some other topics. And one of the other topics and one of the other things that I want to discuss is the realistic dynamic of what it's like to be in law enforcement, not just in the sense of like day in and day out aspect of the job, but more importantly, how it affects you and the kind of the hidden things that people don't necessarily think about or realize, not only the general public, but also I think even in the beginning, Josh, you probably agree with me, going into law enforcement, you don't realize how it's going to affect you.
No, not even. Yeah.
So I want to talk about it, and that's why I reached out to you. Want to have you come on the show. You've been, what did you say, coming up on 10 years?
Yep.
And then we have our beautiful wife sitting down with us so that they give the perspective of what it's like to be married to somebody who is in law enforcement and how they've been able to cope and manage on their end and what they've experienced. And so we're going to cover a lot of stuff in this episode. And I guess the easiest place to start, Josh, tell us a little bit about way back in the day. I know that you come from a family of law enforcement and brothers and parents and uncles and whatever the case may be that have been in for a long, long time. So you've got a little bit of history there, but way back in the day, what was the catalyst for you deciding that you wanted to pursue that career and go in that direction? Do you remember? I mean, it was like 10 years ago, but do you recall?
Yeah, well, growing up, my dad, he started his career in the prison, went from prison down to a county jail, and yeah, his entire life was pretty much work in corrections. He never went out to the road. Graduating high school, I never really thought about law enforcement. Out of high school, I went into construction, pouring concrete, and then I got into HVAC and refrigeration. And that's with, three brothers that were also in law enforcement. They got into law enforcement pretty early. Corrections, and then I have one brother that he's a patrol officer. And then I never really thought of myself getting into law enforcement. I thought I would just, work a normal job. But the older I got, you start having kids and bills and stuff like that. You start looking at retirement and stability. And, for those of you out there that do refrigeration or construction or labor type work.
We have a ton of HVAC guys that listen to the podcast.
Well, I'm just saying, those of you that blue collar type work, how up and down it can be. And sometimes you don't know if you're going to get paid that week because times are slow. So that's when I went down and took the test, the post-test, passed, and, I applied for a county jail, and I got hired. And pretty much, just went into a full bore and got a lot of advice from family. And, a little over 9 years going on 10, I've been immersed into it. So. And
that's obviously how we know each other. I mean, that's how we met. You and I went through the academy way back in the day.
Yep.
And that's how we, came to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, in regards to my law enforcement career, I look back on those time periods of going through the academy, and granted, I think, what is it, like 3 months or something like that?
Yeah.
Such a wonderful experience, right? It's a shitty experience. There's a lot of, physical and study. I mean, there's tons and tons of things that you have to go through during that process, but the bond and the relationship that not only you and I made, but that we made with some of the other people involved and the other classmates and friends and everything like that. I mean, that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, lifelong friendships you build.
Mm-hmm. So that's why you get into it. Now we're fast forward, and now we're 10 years in. Essentially, we'll say 10 years in. One of the things that I know from my own personal experience, I feel like I'm a different person today than I was when I started my career in law enforcement. And not only, you can say that about anybody, right? Anybody in the course of 10 years is going to be different. But it shifted and changed so many different things about me that, to a certain degree, there's still parts of it that I'm kind of piecing together and truly kind of understanding, right? So if you could look at it, and this is kind of a shitty question right off the bat, but how has it changed you? And I want you to focus, because there are positive aspects, and we're going to talk about some of the positive things that come out of being in law enforcement and working inside a jail and things like that. But what's the shitty stuff that you can see?
Well, off the bat, I think prior to going into law enforcement, I was pretty trusting of most people. You know, being in as long as I am now, I'm not. And I attribute that entire thing to the job. You know, seeing, you know, the lowest of society come through and what they do, and, you know, things that I've seen in the jail, and you just, I don't know, you stereotype people on the outside that aren't in jail from this, you know, from this point forward. And it's, I don't try to do it on purpose. You just do. And any corrections officer or law enforcement officer is going to agree with what I say. There's just certain things you do. And as far as changed me, you know, you're around so much negativity all the time. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. It's constant negative. People don't like being in jail. People don't like being in prison. You see people at their lowest. So you have to try to do positive things every single day, or it's going to eat you up. It's going to eat you alive. And I've tried to do that. And I don't know, maybe Misty can, you know, vouch for that or tell you maybe where I've changed. I don't know that I personally have seen a huge change in me. Maybe I have, but it's been so long and so many years. I think I've just gone with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense.
So I don't know, like, to answer your question, have I changed? I think I've changed towards society. But for myself, I don't, like, I'm still very humorous. I like to have fun. I like to have a good time. I like to joke around. I try not to bring what I do at work home the best I can. Obviously, you're going to bring some of it home, but, you know, it is what it is to a certain point.
So that dynamic, that thing where you view society and the world kind of as a whole in a different light than you necessarily did ahead of time. I would agree with you. I think that every cop, correctional officer, anything out there in the realm of law enforcement undoubtedly gets that view. And it's not even something that you kind of consciously find yourself choosing. It's not like at some point along the way, you're like deciding, okay, now I'm going to think about everybody this way. It just happens real subtly, right, where you go from, you know, and what's really funny too is that it's everybody. It's not just the people that you work with, meaning, you know, the inmates or the people that you arrest or the people that you end up dealing with on the street, or it's not the parts of society that you typically deal with day in and day out. Yes, you do that almost, you know, right off the bat, but it becomes the thing where you look at everybody, even like friends and family and like fucking neighbors that are really sweet and nice. Like there's always this thing in the back of your head. You're like, oh,
what are they doing?
Yeah,
what are they doing
hiding
behind
something.
the scenes? Right.
You just start to question everything.
You do.
And I think when I say design, I don't think anybody designed it that way. I think that's the reality of it is the reason that cops and correctional officers do that is for survival. Where we could hearken it all the way back to the day, like predator and prey, and, you know, we're cavemen and we're running around having to survive in an environment where things can hurt us and kill us. And so my guess is when we were cavemen running around, we probably fucking looked at everything like, how is this going to kill me? I have to decide whether or not if I go this way or go that way or interact with this plant or this bush or this tree or this tiger or saber-toothed tiger, you know, whatever the case may be, it's going to kill me in some way, shape, or form. So I have to view the world around me that way. And that's how people in law enforcement view the world, is what can kill me and how do I protect myself from it?
Right. And regular society, regular people, they don't see that.
No.
Nobody sees that. I remember a while back with Misty's family, my entire family's law enforcement. So when my family gets together, we can tell stories and all laugh and joke about, you know, the career and about the job. I remember back Misty's family, who nobody is in law enforcement, and we were all sitting around eating dinner one evening, and one of them said, "Hey, tell us a story about, you know, something that's happened in the jail." You know, and yeah, exactly. And I go, "Oh, okay." And I go off to tell them, you know, a story about a guy, you know, smearing his feces all over the window and standing there naked and doing his whole thing. And I realized in the middle of my story, I start looking around the table and everybody's looking at me with this just perplexed look on their face like, what are you talking about? That's not the story I wanted to hear. And I realized at that time, I can't tell stories to people that don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? They're just not going to get it.
Yeah. I remember I think I've told you this story before, Steph. One of the things that I recall from, like, it's my go-to kind of if I'm going to tell somebody a story about working at the jail, because there's lots of shit that, not only is difficult to talk about, but you don't really, there's a certain reverence in regards to certain things that happen and take place that you don't want to remember, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to tell people about it. And at the same time, you're kind of respecting whatever it was that happened. And we don't have to get into all of those things, but one of the funny things, and it's funny, in the reality, it's not. It's terrible and it's sad and it's tragic, but it's funny. It was the very, very fucking first day that we end up in the jail, right? So we're done with the academy. Very, very first day in housing. You get your CTO and you walk into the unit and it's like day one, right off the bat. And right off the bat, we relieve the shift before us and we're taking over. And since it's day one, you're not doing anything other than watching. You've got another officer that you're assigned to, and he's your trainer and everything like that. And so all you're doing is sitting back and watching. And right off the bat, we have a crazy guy who is inside of his cell. He's an immigrant from like Sudan or something like that. So he doesn't speak really, really good English. It's very, very broken English, and he's got a really heavy accent. And he's yelling and screaming and banging on the cell and, yelling out about fuck Bush and doing all these other kind of things. And it kind of culminates in him naked inside the cell. I don't even know how to there's no polite.
Just say it.
Yeah, there's no easy way to describe, but he's like, I don't know if I can say it, but he's doing things to his body as he's sitting, and it's just terrible. It's disgusting and gross and sad and everything like that. And that's my introduction to, hi, you're going to come work at a jail. This is what you're going to experience on a daily basis. Yeah. But the interesting thing for me is I remember that experience very, very well, obviously, because it was, first day, kind of profound. And probably a year and a half later, maybe even 2 years later, I came across that same prisoner in another part of the jail. He had been inside for however long. He may have gotten out and come back. Excuse me, I keep burping because we're drinking, but he'd come back to the jail. So I had some interaction with him after the fact, down the road in some other part of the jail, some other housing unit or something like that. Super normal guy, like very, very stable. You could carry on a conversation with him. He spoke English, not super well, but enough that he could converse and carry on a conversation and understand what you were saying. And you could typically understand what he was saying. Very, very normal. And that's one of those things that me personally, I look back at and it helps me understand, and it shaped my time at the jail, really formed and shaped my opinion in regards to mental health and what all of that is and what that really encompasses, all those kind of things. And that's a huge topic that we could get off on, but I don't want to go off there yet.
Right.
Misty, what's one of the ways that you've seen or experienced or kind of saw Josh change over the years in regards to his experience of working inside the jail and how it changed him in a negative way?
He did become very stereotypical. He judged everybody. Like, we would walk by somebody and be like, get the kids, bring them up here, and stuff like that. But he also became very numb to things that the kids and I, like physical pain, or that's been a big one, that he's just kind of numb to anything physical, or if even himself, he just deals with pain in a very macho and not very human way.
Do you think that's him just being a dumbass in his personality, or do you think that has a role to play with being...
Probably both.
Yeah.
Because he is...
Not a dumbass.
Because he's not a weak person anyway, and obviously it takes a certain person to be a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he'd be good at it, but even when he first went into it, I could tell he just didn't really want to do it. It was kind of something he felt like he needed to do or almost forced into it, I think. But he's done pretty good. He hasn't changed a whole lot personality-wise, but he, those are the two biggest ones. Is he's made me paranoid, and I also stereotype people too.
Yeah.
And then with numbing out to pain and stuff like that, it's hard to tell him when you hurt because he doesn't care. Deal with it. He deals with it every day.
So for your listeners, my wife deals with multiple sclerosis and, you know, a bunch of various other things that she has to deal with. So she's in a lot of chronic pain. She takes, you know, medications for it, pain relief, stuff like that. And that's what she's talking about. And it's not that I'm numb to her pain. I'm not numb to it. It's just we've been dealing with it for years upon years, and you get to a point to where it's just like, okay, well, you know, we have kids and I do have a career and we have bills and we have mortgage and everything else, and life goes on. So I got to move on with what I have to do because there's really nothing that I personally can do to help her. And I think that's what she's talking about. And with the job, you do grow numb to stuff like that. You grow numb to complaining because you hear it day in and day out. These people complain, oh, you know, I'm going to lose my kids. I'm addicted to drugs. Well, yeah, well, you did that yourself. So when you bring that stuff home, yeah, your kid falls off his bike and scrapes his knee and he comes in crying and you're just like, you know,
buck up.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You know, go cry to your mom. I'm not going to listen to it. And I'm not doing that on purpose. I'm not doing that because I'm a jerk or an asshole. It's just, you know, life goes on. You know what I mean?
I think, and this is my opinion, I think what that is, like a systemic, like the cause behind that. Like, so we're talking about a lack of compassion in a sense. Where
there we go.
Right.
He doesn't have a lot of compassion for day in and day out experiences, whether it's pain or whether it's a scraped knee or whatever the case may be. But
small bullshit.
Yeah, just the small minutia of life that you don't have a lot of compassion for. And I think the reason behind that is because compassion isn't an emotion that you ever express outwardly in a sense as somebody in law enforcement, right? You definitely have to have compassion for the things that you experience and the things that you go through. You have to have compassion for that person. And really, really good people that are really, really good at their jobs and very, very just good fucking cops and good fucking officers and things like that. Huge hearts, tons of compassion. But 90% of the time you have to hide that in your role and in the profession because you're protecting yourself from the outside world and the things that you're surrounded by. And the fact is, regardless of however we want to view it, like when we look at it on the big grand scheme of things, compassion, especially if we're dealing with predator and prey and things like that, is viewed as weakness. And so you're going to be, you're going to stick out among the herd if you have that compassion and express it in such a way because it is viewed as weakness. And I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a huge strength. I think it's very important.
It is a huge strength.
I think Josh is very compassionate and a very loving guy, and that's why he's good at what he does and all those kind of things. But, I mean, that would be my point of view. What do you think, babe?
I think you hit it exactly. There's so much of that is built in you and that you have all that pouring, but you have learned so hard of where it can't be displayed that you forget where it can be displayed. You know how to turn it off and you completely forget how to turn it back on. It doesn't mean it's not there. You have that part in you. Like you said, you've been dealing with this for years. There's nothing that you can do. So that's also a preservation method of feeling helpless in the sense of there's nothing that I can do.
That's exactly what he explained to me at one point. He's like, I don't really know what to do for you. And that drives him nuts. So he's kind of just backed away from that. If he can't really do anything, it drives him nuts. I can tell he just can't handle that more than he can handle seeing me in the pain or however he sees it.
This is one of the things that we've actually, like Steph and I go the round. When we say go the rounds, we do go the rounds sometimes, this is one of the things that we deal with on a regular basis in our relationship. I think it's the dynamic of being a man that we fix things, that we're problem solvers. We're the ones typically throughout society and throughout time and history. Like I always like to go way back in regards to like, why the fuck are we the way that we are today, right? There's a lot of things that are genetic in regards to simple dynamic of evolution and genetic makeup of what makes us who we are today. And the fact is, if we look at time and throughout time in history, women typically did this and men typically did that. And one of the things that men typically did was solve things. So we have a problem, we need to eat. So man figures out how to do that. Okay, I've got to eat myself and I've got to feed my family. I'm going to fix that problem. We need some place to live. We got rain falling. We got to protect ourselves from the rain. Okay, I'm going to fix that problem, right? So on and so on and so on and so forth over the expansiveness of time. It's just in our nature to fix stuff. So if you come to us with a problem, our initial response and our initial reaction is, I'm going to fix that. And I love you very, very much.
Oh boy.
We go back and forth all the time where I've had to do everything that I can. Like I have to consciously step into the space of telling myself, okay, I'm not fucking fixing anything in this moment. All I'm doing is listening. I'm just being present and I'm just hearing whatever it is that she's expressing. Even though what she's expressing, I'm interpreting as problems, meaning she's talking about something that she's going through in her life and experience, whether it is chronic pain or whether it's a pain in the ass or whether it's frustration with this or frustration with that or whatever the case may be. She's talking about things that she's experiencing in her life. And by she, I mean my beautiful wife, Stephanie. I love you very much, baby. She's talking about things that she's experiencing in her life, and I want to fix them because that's what I do, right? And I think men in general fix things. And I think it's wonderful that we do that. Go ahead, sweetheart.
I'm going to jump in right there. It's not just a man thing that wants to fix things, though. I mean, you have the same aspect for me of when I see things going on and trying to call them to your attention and go, what can I do? What can I do? And I know you do the same, especially when you're mothers.
Yep.
Your kid comes in with a scraped up knee. You're damn right. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that. You have we fix things a little differently in a sense. You have a broken heart. You hurt. You need compassion. I'm going to give you everything I have. I'm going to fix that. And if it comes to putting food on a table, getting shelter, women do that as well. So it's a conflict of back and forth of we're all just trying to fix everything and forget to look at ourselves and what we need to fix within.
Good point, sweetheart. I'll stop trying to fix stuff. I think it's funny because I think that there's a lot of things like that where at the core of, men and women, we have to figure out a way, especially if we're in long-term committed relationships and we want to spend time with the people that we love and everything like that. You have to find ways to interact with one another. And I think that everybody out there and whoever's listening, and I mean, for me personally, I think the more that I can think about the perspective, not only of where my wife's coming from, but also look at some of the dynamics of just that may be ingrained in me because of that evolutionary DNA kind of genetic thing that's taken place over time in history. So I can take that into consideration, not use it as an excuse, not be like, sorry, sweetheart, I'm a caveman, I fucking fix shit, I don't have time to listen to your problems. I'm solving, how we're going to put food on the table, but take it into consideration in regards to how we do interact, so that at least I know that if I tend to always go back to that place, there's not necessarily, it doesn't mean I'm an asshole or that there's anything wrong with me, that there may just be some aspect of that that's because of evolution and genetics and time and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Pause. I have to fix this. It's not working. I try to be quiet and I could hear like I'm sorry. Okay. How's that? That's better.
That's good.
Okay. That's better.
But now we're like way off track. I don't know why we're talking about cavemen.
I'm sure
fixing
it'll
shit.
happen a lot more as we go on.
One of the things I wanted to ask you wives, what is, at the end of the day, when you take into consideration all the different aspects of having a spouse or a husband that is in law enforcement, what would you say maybe one or two top things that have been most difficult for you to deal with? Maybe something that people don't typically think of.
Mine was honestly how big of a liar I had to be.
And she was going to call me a liar. And I'm like,
no. My every day was a lie, basically. Because where I worked in dispatch, so I had that other aspect of it. And I knew how important focus was for you. I know you had the focus, but my biggest lie was always yeah, baby, I do this all day. I know. I'm not afraid. I know when you're going on calls. I'm not worried. And when we worked together and I could hear you on calls and just making sure everything was fine and my voice never altered. If there were some situations, which you got into a few situations. And then when we were on opposite shifts and you tell me about things, I knew how important it was for you to talk. And I never wanted you for a second to see an ounce of fear in me. I never wanted you to be on a call and afraid to, not afraid, but hesitant. I didn't want it to occupy a moment of your time for you to stop and think of what I was going to hear or what I was going to feel. I never wanted that for a second to be a part of your action that you needed to take. So I lied all the time. I'm not scared. There's nothing I worry about with that. I know you got it. I know everybody's there. I know how it goes. I know how things sound. I'm not scared. And
Yeah.
I spent a lot of the time afraid because it's scary. The stuff that, changes so fast and so rapidly. Any moment, all of a sudden, you look at that offender wrong. You look at that inmate. You see that look in their eye and you know that something's going to shift at that moment. When you pull that car over or you walk into that domestic, it just shifts in a second. It's a speeding ticket. That's all you're going to do. You were going, whatever, 5 over, 10 over, whatever. You're walking up for a speeding ticket and everything shifts. So when you have the moments and when you're hearing the stories and needing to talk and know that you're so grateful that they're right there talking to you about them because they're getting that voice even. But I didn't want that to occupy a part of your time. I didn't want you for a second to think of what's Steph going to hear? Is she going to hear this? Is this going to scare her? So I think that was the hardest thing. I was a big liar.
Yeah, a big liar.
Wow.
Well, I think that, what were you going to say, Josh?
Oh, I just said, wow. That's, yeah. I can see that.
I think, I think we talked about it on the episode way back in the day that we were on. And I mean, I'm sure.
Did I mention that?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to mention the fact that you were in law enforcement as well. You were a 911 dispatcher. So you knew very, very well the realities of not only what I dealt with, not only because I was your husband, but also because you were in that space and in that realm of law enforcement and everything else that took place. And so you realized the realities of what really took place and what happened. And it's funny because you're talking and everything like that.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. I'm sure for you, it's really difficult. And thank you for sharing. But it's funny because you and I both had that thing because there was a time period during when we worked together and we would end up on the same shifts and things like that, where you would be the person on the radio that I would be talking to, and vice versa. You would be the one that would be sending me to
having
calls
to
or
give
whatever.
you that call.
Yeah, whatever the case may be. And I think you and I both did a really, really that was always a conscious thing in my head too, is where I didn't want to sound a specific way on the radio. It didn't absorb a lot of my time, meaning I didn't think about it and it would distract me because you didn't want it to distract me.
I didn't want to take any of your time, no.
But there would be times where I would consciously think about how I was going to say something or say something over the radio because I knew that you were the one that was listening. And because I didn't want you to be nervous, I didn't want you to be scared. But obviously it makes me, it didn't take up a lot of time. And at the end of the day, I had to do what I had to do and everything like that. But there was that one time, you remember, obviously, I'm sure because we've talked about it, but there was a time where
exactly where you're going.
I went to this call and crazy guy that somebody was trying to kick out of their house or whatever. And he was passed out because he was high or whatever the case may be. And I show up and I'm by myself. I don't have any other officers with me. And I'm trying to wake the guy up because it's a stupid call. It's somebody that just wants this guy out of his house, but I'm trying to wake him up. Finally, he wakes up and he wakes up fighting and wants to fight, and it takes him a little bit to really realize that there's a cop that's talking to him as opposed to somebody just trying to kick his ass. And so he wakes up fighting and I have to fight with him. So I get on the radio at one point during the fight and basically I'm asking for assistance, and you can hear very clearly in my voice that shit's going on and I need help. And Steph's on the radio. She's the one that's dispatching that night. So she hears all of that. And when I finally got the guy all secured and everything like that, and everything was okay, nobody had shown up yet at that point. It all happens in the span of 30 seconds or a minute or whatever the case may be. But I take the moment to get on the radio and let everybody know that I'm okay and that, the scene is secure or whatever the case may be. And granted, it's for my other officers, the backup that's coming, so they can, know in their heads as well that they can slow down a little bit and don't have to get there immediately. But more importantly, it was because I knew my wife was listening and that she'd want to know that I didn't just get my ass beat. So,
Right.
but what else, baby, besides lying?
Besides lying,
You big
besides being
liar.
a big liar.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's because you have to be, it's giving up a lot of control, I guess, in how things go, where you sit, because you have to have such, I guess, a presence. The word's present. You have to have such presence when you're out there and when you're dealing with that part of the community that's in that struggle. And you always have to be aware of it, know what to look for, know what to see. So even just going out with your kids, like how you said that Josh is, get the kids up here.
Yep.
It's where you're sitting, the places that you go, and how in effect that if all of a sudden, they give you that look or that little code where they're around somebody that they know and they don't want them to know their family, how you behave, how all of a sudden you're strangers and you're removing yourself from the area. So just, a lot of control on that, which I don't know. And I guess it's kind of a double edge on that because you give up that in a sense of what we're going to do in this moment or where we're going to be at this moment or what our options are because you have to be so hyper vigilant, just so aware of everything. But you also get into this realm of, I guess, where you end up being, I guess, an inhibitor of that. You start to enhance that because you then start relying on it and being comforted by it because he's got it. When you're out, that Josh has got the situation. You're going to be fine.
True.
No matter what goes on, he's controlling it. I know when we're out, Craig's got everything handled. It doesn't matter. There's times that you almost walk through oblivious when they're around because they've got it.
Right. Make
So,
you feel safe.
Yeah, you lose that little bit of your self-awareness, I guess. God, that's so hard to describe.
I think you did a good job. I mean, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Misty? What are
I 100% agree with her on that one.
what are the top two things that come to your mind in regards to kind of what you've had to deal with as the wife of a...
Big one that I've had a hard time with is he's one that will not talk. Like I can tell something happened that day and he doesn't want to talk about it when he gets home, if ever. Some of the stories I've never even heard of, some of the stuff that he's gone through, and I can tell some of it's killing him, but he won't open up. So getting him to open up is really, really hard if he ever does. So that has been really hard in the whole fixing it thing for a wife or a mom. I want to help him so much, but I don't know how. And he's like, so, like him being the person who makes me feel safe. And my kids even say they're safer around dad. How am I supposed to bring this amazing man who won't talk to me, who I know needs to, won't? And that's actually, that hurts a lot because I don't know how to help him, but I know that I'm not going to be able to get it out of him.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can tell some of the stuff like the trauma and stuff he's been through that has affected him and has changed him, even as a parent.
Yeah.
And as a husband. So,
do you think that's the biggest thing that you've kind of had to, I guess, manage or cope with?
It has been. That has been one of the main things because...
Did you realize that in the beginning, like when he started his career and he, got into it and everything like that? Was that even on your radar or was that just something that kind of came?
It was because I noticed things started happening really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Like what? What's
like
a good
that
example?
The first year he had, I think it was a suicide, and he had to talk a female out of committing suicide. And just, when he would tell me just pretty much the gist of it, she was just a stupid bitch. I just wanted to say this, he was...
I never said that.
You totally said that. But I think that's an important thing. Like the fact is, that's how, cops and people that work, that's how they talk. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we think people are stupid bitches, because people aren't. People are wonderful, beautiful people. But the reason we talk like that and the reason that we shift our perspective and our viewpoint is once again just protecting ourselves and insulating ourselves and putting forth this, not just a front like we're faking and pretending toughness, but really insulating our heart and our emotions and all the things that we have to protect.
That's what's been hard because he's doing that to me too.
Yeah.
That's what's hard.
Well, how do you come home and tell your wife these stories? Here I think I was maybe kind of like you, brand new into the into the jail. And I may have been 4 months in, 3-4 months in, maybe less. I can't remember. But I'm sitting down at the officer station, and this female bangs on her door, and I look up, and she holds her hands up in the air, and she had cut her wrists on both sides, superficial, stupid cuts. Obviously not gonna die from it, but she does have blood just running down both of her arms, dripping onto the ground. I was like, holy shit, holy cow, she's cut her wrist. So I called out on the radio. We get everybody in there, and the situation gets done. She gets pulled out of the unit and taken up to suicide watch. And I have a ranking officer in there with me. And again, I'm brand new. Okay. And he looks over at me and he says, "Hey, Josh." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "How do you know she just didn't go like this?" And he takes his hand and he puts it between his legs and rubs it across his crotch. She just wasn't bleeding down there in the vaginal area. She rubbed it on her arms. He's a ranking officer and he did that to me. And he's like, "How do you know she just didn't do this?" Rubs his crotch and holds his hands up. And I'm looking at him like, I don't know. I guess she could have done that. I was just completely taken back.
Like she was on her period or something.
Like she was on her period.
Yeah.
Right. But it was hilarious to them when he did that to me. But I'm brand new and I'm going, okay, I just had a female cut her wrist. And then he makes a joke like that. How do you come home and tell your wife this
They're
story?
such assholes. Like, we're
seriously,
such
you're
assholes.
just like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? But, and that was kind of my introduction into corrections. You go into that.
And that's a wonderful example of how the dynamic of people change, where you have to start to process the things that you're experiencing. Because it's terrible when you see somebody cut their wrists or try to commit suicide. That's a terrible thing to be in, right? Not only to visually see it, but then also be in the position where it's your job. Like, there's nobody else. Like, you can't turn around and say, "Hey, Dad, this seems like too big of a thing for me to deal with. I need your help to step in." It's your fucking job to deal with whatever's happening.
No, you're dealing with it.
And you have to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an incredibly challenging thing to go through. And then I love it. Like, that's a perfect stereotypical response from an officer, an officer that's above you, like somebody that's got more experience, more seniority, somebody that's been around longer.
Yeah.
Because that's how you cope and manage.
It is.
That's how you go through.
You make jokes about it.
Yeah, day in and day out. And you minimize the situation of what's just happened as a way to cope and manage and deal with the overwhelming shit that you're experiencing inside. And nobody's doing anything to deal with what's going on inside. Do you know what I mean? The agencies that we've worked for, I left and I went and worked for another agency. You eventually left that jail and you went and worked for another agency. In my experience in law enforcement as a whole, nobody out there, whether it's on an agency level or even on a real personal level, I'm sure that there's officers out there and things like that that are doing a good job. But by and large, I don't think that there's anybody really doing anything to deal with the things that they're experiencing inside, that they're really falling into that that way of coping and managing and dealing, where you make light of the situation and minimize it. And you also turn that person. So that example of that woman that slits her wrists in front of you, right? Whether she was committed and she really wanted to commit suicide, or it was a cry for help, or whatever the case may be, right? Obviously somebody that's in pain and needs help. But you minimize that person and make that person small and use that person as the focal point for what you yourself can't deal with. So I've got all this stuff inside and I need somewhere to direct it. So we're going to direct it on that person. We're going to minimize them. And that's why I think cops and people in law enforcement get a bad rap, because we talk poorly about people. And it's not because we lack compassion or feeling, but it's because we have to have a direction for that, for the things that we are unable to cope and deal with. And so we turn it outwards, and it's just easier to put it on the person that we just arrested or that we're dealing with inside. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Would you agree?
I agree 100%. And there's peer support groups out there, and the first agency I worked for had a great peer support group. And there's deputies there that I would always turn to talk to. And there's some that have retired and moved on that I there's a sergeant that has moved on. He doesn't work there anymore that I keep in contact with. And I look up to him greatly. And, but when you're in these situations and you do this job, you got to have such a type A personality. We don't want to go talk to somebody about our feelings. We just don't do it, you know. You may have a close friend you might open up to a little bit, but you know, for Misty, and I know she wants me to come home and talk to her and be there for her, or she wants to be there for me, and I know 100% she is. That alone gives me comfort, you know. That alone, right there, just knowing that she's there, does wonders for me. But it's hard to come home and really express your feelings about things that you see to your spouse. It's just, maybe there's guys out there that do it. Maybe their spouse loves to hear it. I just don't really.
Did you ever meet any of those guys, though?
I've never not met one.
Like, I don't know any of those guys.
Yeah, I've not met one. So
I want to think that there's those guys out there.
There probably is.
Or women. Obviously, there's plenty of women in law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
That there's people out there that do that. I've never met them.
I haven't
don't know
either.
about them.
They probably wear skinny jeans and shave their legs, but I'm sure they are out there.
But that I forgot too, like the peer support group. So there are things in place, right, in the agency that we work for and other agencies. There's definitely things in place. However, I think it's very reflective of society, where the things in place to cope and deal with emotion and mental well-being and health are incredibly limited, right? They're woefully small. They just don't meet up to what the need is. And I also think that, especially when it comes to law enforcement, typically it is voluntary, right? Unless it's some sort of really incredibly outside the regular everyday norm thing where you are involved in some sort of heinous attack or shooting, or, do you know what I mean? Something that was outside of the regular scope of everyday duty, then you may be referred to some sort of follow-up psychological exam or counseling or something like that. But I think that's one of the things that's missing is we have things in place already. There are plenty of agencies out there in the realm of law enforcement and in that space that have things in place, but typically it's voluntary. Here's this if you think you need it. If you get to a point where you feel like you need to talk to somebody, hey, we got somebody you can talk to. And it's a buddy of yours. It's an officer that's worked with you. It's somebody that experiences and knows it. And that's great. Those are the type of people you need to talk to. But I don't think it should be voluntary. I think it should be mandatory.
Wait, it should be. Yeah. The biggest, I think, even for myself, is we have a brotherhood in law enforcement. We do have a brotherhood. But there's also a large group of people that you can't trust, even in law enforcement. There's a huge group of people you can't trust. And I'm I even have close friends that I'll go out and get beers with or whatever that I won't get real personal with, because I know that if I tell them certain things, everybody else is going to know about it. And there's certain things you just want private. And even in these support groups, there are people in there. You have to be pretty damn comfortable with them to talk to them, because there's a lot of people that really do want to see you fail. There's a lot of people that want to see you succeed, but there's a lot of people that want to see you fail. And if they get any little weakness from you, they're going to exploit it and they're going to run with it. And so I think that stops a lot of people from talking and opening up as well.
See, I think that's a regular dynamic too. Were you going to say something, babe?
No, go ahead and finish with the dynamic.
No, what were you going to say? Because I won't forget mine.
No, finish that. Mine's going to be a tangent. So
I think that's a dynamic, because if you think about outside of law enforcement, right, just in every regular day life where people, right. I mean, there's therapists and there's counseling out there, right? Everybody should go. There's all these options, all these opportunities, all these things. And if you reach out and you go to counseling or you go see a therapist, you really have to connect and feel safe with that person before you're really going to be able to open and express. If you go see somebody and you don't feel good about that interaction, if you don't feel like you kind of jive and mix and things like that, then it's not really beneficial. It's all surface shit that you kind of get out and you don't really go back.
Exactly.
And I think that that's well known, like in the space of therapy and counseling. That's something that people are aware of, where you have to find somebody that you connect with and resonate with. And so it's not uncommon for people to go to multiple people until they find somebody that they connect with. So in the space of law enforcement, where we have something like a peer support group set up, I think that should be, like I said, I think it should be mandatory. So whether it's monthly, I think there's nothing wrong with monthly, where monthly you go and talk to somebody in the peer support team. And in that peer support team, there's a huge team of people so that you can find that guy or that gal, that person that you really connect with and resonate with, so that on your monthly appointment of going in and talking to them and sitting down and bullshitting for an hour, you have the opportunity to fully express. Maybe it was that month that something really shitty happened, or maybe it's not. Maybe you just have regular interaction and you just want to bullshit for that hour. That's fine too, but it's going to create a bond and a relationship with that person who may have a little bit of extra training and skill set and experience that they can draw from.
Life experience.
Yeah, life experience. They're going to be able to help you through that process. Because 9 times out of 10, all you need to do is talk and somebody needs to listen, right? And if you can create that bond and that relationship with that person, and like I said, if there's a whole kind of smorgasbord of people available to you where, you know, if there's 3 people on the peer support team and they're all assholes and you don't like them, you're not going to go.
No.
You're not going to seek that help out even when you need it.
Yeah.
But if it's mandatory and you're required to go, and then the team available to you that you can kind of pick and choose from, I think that would make a big difference.
Yeah. Or, you know, the guy that's going through divorce that needs to talk to somebody about divorce, and they send a peer support guy over to you that's 22 years old and not even married, who just got into peer support to put it on his resume. That's a huge difference rather than sending somebody over to you that's been through divorce and been put through the ringer that you can talk to. Absolutely. I mean, why do you think law enforcement's has one of the highest suicide rates? Because we don't have an out. A lot of these guys,
suicide and divorce.
And divorce, yeah, suicide and divorce, and we don't have an out because we feel like we don't need to talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Okay, baby, we're done with our tangents.
So I love the peer support group. So I'll throw that out there that is a great idea. Your 22-year-old.
For whoever's listening, right?
Yes.
Like we've got people in charge that are listening.
Right, yeah.
It's important. I'm going to go back to your question of how do I talk to my wife about that? So.
We struggled with that too.
We did struggle with that.
And she knew, like she had the added perspective of not only realizing, I don't mean to keep interrupting.
No, it's okay.
Not only realizing like what would take place and what would happen, but there were times as well where she knew specifically the what really did happen. She knew about the call. She knew about whatever the case may be of what I went through and experienced. And I would come home and not want to fucking talk about it.
So it's going right back to that for a minute. To go off that again, and how do you talk to your wife? When you have these things happen, when you have these moments, and how do I talk? How do I bring this to her? Same law enforcement family, had parents or father that was involved in it, fire department. Now I have uncles that have been law enforcement. It's just kind of, I've never grown up without having that in my life. So out of the people that I've known since working for the county in the area that I did and the family, and then when Craig and I got together and getting a deeper personal level with all of these officers that I got to know and their families, I've only heard once ever a wife say, or a spouse say, I'll just say not even a wife, just a spouse say, I don't want to hear about that. I don't like it when he talks about it. I don't want to hear about that crap. That stresses me out too much. I've only heard that once. Every other conversation has been trying to get him to talk to her or trying to get her to talk to him just to get that information out there. The things that you go through are so horrific in a sense that you feel that of course you're not going to share that with somebody you love. You don't want them to feel that. So you're going to protect them and you're not going to share that. But what you don't see is they're already going through it with you. They're right there with you.
Right.
They may not have that visual detail that you have, but on top of them being right there with you, they're also going through losing you, and not just losing you for them, but watching you lose parts of yourself and not being able to do anything. You're not shielding them from anything. You're not protecting them from anything. It's creating more of a void in a sense. And that's not me saying that, everything is going wrong is because you're not talking. That's crazy. That's not it. But to think that you can't, and to think that in some way you're protecting, unless she's telling you, I don't want to hear that, she wants to hear that. Yeah. And not because she's sitting there, with the fingers going and Mr. Burns and the details and want to have that. It's heartbreaking. You're going to rip her heart out. But she's going to be right there with you, and you're going to have that moment of healing together, as opposed to your heart is bleeding and a heart that doesn't need to be is now going through that as well in a different form, because they have no communication. They're not getting any of that from you. It's just all, she's going through it all by herself.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And, communication, obviously, in a marriage is, it's paramount. It's probably one of the most important things. Misty deals with so much already. Okay.
That's a good excuse.
But I'm just saying, she's trying to be the perfect wife already. Okay. And she doesn't need to be. She already is. I haven't been with her for, going on 20 years, just, by fluke.
I really hope you hear that, Misty.
Well, I
hope you heard that.
I'm surprised that she's been with me as long as she has. Okay. But she deals with so much on her own with just trying to, homeschool the kids, get dinner done.
Dude, you totally got to come up to the mic.
Sorry, man.
It's okay.
Keep the, anyway, homeschooling the kids, getting dinner done every day, keeping the house clean, keeping herself, healthy the best she can. And then her doctor appointments, her MRIs, her spinal taps, her Solumedrol treatment, steroid treatments she has to go get in, her pain, her dizziness, her blackouts, everything else that she has to deal with on a daily basis, plus go to work, and try to contribute that she feels to the family to bring a cash flow in to help us pay the bills. She's already got a gigantic amount of responsibility that she feels that she has to do. And then here's me in my little tiny space where I go to work and I deal with shitbags all day long, and I come home. I don't want to stress her out any more than she already is, So, and I know it's probably wrong, and I know she probably wants to hear it, but in my mind, I'm like, she's already dealing with what she's dealing with. I just need to deal with my own stuff on my own and try to help her deal with her stuff, even though a lot of the times I don't. What is this, like a therapy session? You guys are like, are wizards, just so you guys know. Anyway, I think I just answered my question.
I think you did,
all in one statement, but yeah.
Dude, it's human nature.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think the reality is that's how a lot of people move through life, where we love somebody, obviously our wives, our family, our children, things like that. We love them and we're going to do anything for them. We would literally...
I apologize.
No, you tried to pull that off so smooth.
My beer is overflowing. Shit. Okay, we're good.
I think it's human nature where we want to make that person's life as easy as possible. If there's somebody that we love truly and dearly, our goal and our purpose is simply to make their life easy, right? We want them to be happy, we want them to be healthy, and we want them to feel joy. I think at the core, especially if you have a kid, you understand what that is, and that dynamic, that's all you want for your children, right? Happy, healthy, and you want them to smile and have a joyful life. So in that case, you want to do everything you can to make their life that way. So they have stress, they have anxiety, they have things that they're dealing with, they have problems that they have to solve, whatever the case may be. You want to help them with that. The last thing you want to do is put things on their plate so that that plate is now fuller and heavier and their life is harder and more difficult. But the thing that we forget, and I do it too, I'm guilty of it too, Steph will tell you right off the bat, I'm a huge asshole in regards to kind of, even in the space right now, in the experiences that we go through and things like that, a lot of times I want to internalize it and I don't want to process it and I don't want to share it and I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to add to what she's dealing with.
We're all guilty of it.
We are.
All
and
of us.
What we forget is that person that we don't want to burden with our problems and with our experiences, they love us as much as we love them.
Right.
And what they're trying to do is make our life easier as well. They love us just as much. So their purpose behind that love is to make our life happy, stress-free, more joyful. So in a sense too, and the other thing that I try to remind myself of, and there's times that I do a great job and then there's times that I fail miserably at it, I remind myself of the feeling that I get inside when I help somebody. And more importantly, when I help my wife. So when Steph has something, And I can help her, whether it's a problem that's fixed or whatever the case may be. But more often than not, when it's that space of just being in that space of listening and hearing her and giving her the opportunity to kind of vent and express and share, I feel good. Do you know what I mean? That like endorphin rush, that thing that happens inside of our head, that chemical dump that we get when we help somebody that makes us feel good. I'm robbing her of that because now she can't get that if I don't give her the shit that I need help with. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Makes total sense.
It helps me sometimes. And like I said, sometimes I do a great job and sometimes I fail miserably at it. And I still stay stuck in my closed-minded space of like, I'm just going to be miserable and I don't want to burden her with these problems. But
what? Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm trying to just put it into words, you know. For anyone that has dealt with someone with chronic pain, it's like we talked about earlier, you know, you go numb with it. You know, I have a headache or I'm sick or I don't feel good. No, I can't go do this. And I'm a pretty active individual. You know, I like to get out, mountain bike, hike, do all that kind of stuff. And half the time she can't. So a lot of times I'm doing it by myself. And now my son's older, my son's 15. You know, I have him to go do this stuff with now. But you know, prior to, I was doing a lot of it by myself. You know, that gets old after a while. And then you build up resentment. And then you build up, you know, well, you know, giving her a massage at night might really reduce her pain and help her out. But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, I'm being very selfish, but I'm tired of the chronic hurting. I don't want to help you. You know what I mean? At the same time. And that's so wrong of me to say. But sometimes you just feel that way. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So
I'm going to challenge you a little bit, right? I do that all the time. I feel like I say that all the time on the podcast where somebody will be talking about something and I'm like, I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. Yeah. But I love you. And I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah, go ahead, take a drink real quick. It's going to be rough. Go ahead.
So you keep referencing that in regards to your wife, Misty, and things like that. That she's got this thing that she's got to experience and move through, and you don't know how to help her with it, right? And it has all these kind of ramifications for your life and the family's life and your relationship and blah, 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 so on and so forth. Obviously, and I know that you agree with this, obviously it doesn't define her in any way, shape, or form, right?
Right.
It's just something that she deals with, no different. But you're using it in such a way to kind of define aspects, I'm not talking about as a whole, but aspects of your relationship and interaction with one another. Okay. Now we could flip it, and we're going to flip it to where Misty could very easily be describing you in such a way that affects her. So I have this husband, Josh. He's amazing. He's incredible. I love him very much. He's very dear and near to my heart. We've been together for 20 years. He's kind of emotionally detached and he doesn't really want to talk that much about his feelings. And a lot of times he jokes about things to cover up things. And at the end of the day, I really want to connect with him and share with him about things. And I want to have conversations with him, but he doesn't really want to go there in that space. And so I kind of become numb and detached to it to where I don't really want to engage with him anymore because what's the point? Every time I try, he can't do it. Or I know that this is some area of his life where he just can't go past this experience or this thing. So I've stopped trying because what's the point, right? At the end of the day. And that's kind of shitty of me because I love him and he's a sweet man and he's really important to me. But every time I try, I get shut down because it's just something that it's just him. It's just something that he has to deal with. It's a dynamic of who he is, right? That thing where he doesn't want to go past surface things in regards to emotion.
Beer's delicious, isn't it?
It is delicious.
Okay, good. Let me take a break. You switched my drink. I took a big swig of the wrong one, and I'm over here dying, trying not to cough.
Sorry, sweetheart.
Yeah, it was like,
I'm trying to get you drunk for the podcast. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
And and I don't know why I brought that up. I don't know why I'm talking about that because I mean we don't need to sit here and pick you guys apart on the podcast in any way, shape, or form. But I think that it's important to. I think the underlying thing that's important is if we always remember that in some way, shape, or form we're robbing the other person of that experience of helping the person that they love. Do you know what I mean?
Agree.
And so, Misty, I'm sure you're at the point too in regards to certain things where you don't tell Josh because you don't want to burden him with it because it's just the same old rigmarole and shit that we have to go through day in and day out experiences of our relationship in our life. So I'm not even going to bother telling him about it And Josh is in the position where I don't know how to fucking fix this. So what's the point? I'm just numb to it, right?
She does that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to when you said you lie, the constant lying. I already know she does that. Okay. I already know that she hurts, but she doesn't tell me, and she will go along with whatever we're doing as a family event or whatever, going somewhere, this and that. And she will be in some serious pain, but she will do it anyway and not tell me she's hurting just for the sake of the family. And I don't personally know what's worse. You know what I mean? So
Steph and I do the same thing. We both have the same thing. I mean, there's some times where, and I love you, sweetheart, and we're going to talk because we've exposed Josh and Misty a little bit on the podcast, so people out there are learning a little bit about them. But
You show mine, I'm going to show yours. Just keep that open, okay?
so you're very responsive to energy. We all know that, blah, 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 where we can get into energy and spirituality and things like that. But you have a physical response to energy, where I don't have an overly physical response to energy at times. But if Steph is feeling energy, or if she's got some sort of emotional block or some sort of stagnant something or another that she's dealing with, she'll have a physical response to it. So she'll get an upset stomach, she'll get a headache, she'll have some sort of manifestation physically of that energy, right? Me, I do have that obviously to some extent and things like that, but it doesn't manifest itself as predominantly as it does in Steph at times. And so it's the same thing where I'll know she's got a headache, I'll know she's in pain, because it's just the way that she processes energy and moves through things. It's her radar's way of picking up on things. And she'll move through it. She'll persevere. She'll go and do whatever it is that we're doing as a family, or do you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, when she's miserable. And then I'm sitting there in that place of like, I don't know how to fucking help you. Like, the same thing that we deal with all the time. Yeah, your stomach hurts because you don't fucking deal with the energy that's inside your belly. I love you very much. Don't look at me like that. So it's the same thing. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's important that at the end of the day, I mean, you guys know this. You guys have been together for 20 years, right? You still have to, at the end of the day, you have to get through your shit and still come to that place of compassion for the person that you love, and that thing where you can reach out to one another, even in pain. So we're both in pain, right? But we're still going to reach out and try to connect. Go ahead, baby.
How do you know? How do you know?
I can feel that you're holding it in.
It's actually something I want to say to you, Josh, but I want you to hear it too, Crick, okay?
I'm listening.
So what you said really just like stuck on my bones about how the feeling of getting numb to it, and she's going through all that, and you're an active guy and you want to go do all these things, and just having that where resentments build and feeling that. I think, now granted, I'm giving you my perspective, okay? So you can take it for what it is. You can pick it up. You can throw it down, however. I think this goes back to Mr. Caveman over here and Man Fix Things.
She's looking at me, by the way.
The love that you have in you is huge. You can just see it and feel it. There is so much in you. And the love that you have for your wife is blindly obvious. It's just right there. And so this part of you that's, I'm going to go for a bike ride, you know, it's getting really old. The fact that I have to do these things by myself. You found an outlet of all the anger that essentially you have to yourself with this. So I found a channel, and it's going to be you because you don't feel good. So it's you. But what I want you to hear is that it's okay that you can't fix this for her. Mm-hmm. It's okay that you can't make her life easier or take away her pain. That's not within you. The things that you can do for her, you're doing, and you're there, and you can be more with that. So it's okay that when I get these massive headaches and my stomach's, it's okay that you can't fix that. It's okay if you want to be a little mad at me for that, because you love so much that you can't fix that. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not up to you. It's okay.
Fuck you, baby.
Sorry.
She's gonna make us all cry. Do you understand what she's saying?
No, well, absolutely. And that's recently I've kind of came to terms with that because we've been getting a lot better, maybe in the past couple of years, maybe. A lot of the things I've been doing lately has been, completely changing my mindset from, the norm. And I think you have to do that to progress. Now, I know we talked earlier about, before the podcast, the universe, puts things in your lap. And they say that, God or whatever, personally, I believe there's energy, but do I believe in, a God that's up in the sky watching over us? I don't know, maybe. But they say that you're not given more than you can handle, right? I think that what we have gone through, me getting into law enforcement and corrections, because I actually used to be, I was very immature prior to law enforcement. I'm still very immature now. But I couldn't get up, doing this podcast right now, prior to that career, I would never be able to sit here and talk, ever. I would be too nervous, too scared. Getting into law enforcement has changed the way I do a lot of things. I can get up and talk. I can get up and instruct classes. I can get up in front of a lot of people, and I'm not nervous to do so, right? And with a lot of the things that law enforcement has taught me, has helped me deal with my wife. Personally, I think if there was, if I was just a regular Joe, I probably would have left Misty by now, because I would be extremely selfish. And I would say, I can't handle a sick person. I'm divorcing you and I'm leaving you.
She probably would have left your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. And I'm not trying to make everything about me.
No, you're good.
But what I'm saying is, I think that the universe, kind of like what you were saying, and you put a good spin on it that I've never really thought about. I think it's preparing me and her for something. I don't know what it is yet. We haven't found it yet, and we got to find it. But I think everything that we've gone through since 1998 up till now is getting ready to put us somewhere that I never thought we could be. Financially, emotionally, marriage-wise, everything. I think something's coming that has been preparing us all the way up to this point. And I don't know what it is yet, but we'll see.
I think you do.
Well,
you're not listening.
We'll see.
You're not
you got
looking
a whiff
at it.
of it. It's coming.
Yeah.
We always say that, though, is that you're always right where you're supposed to be at every single moment of your life, regardless of what you're doing, right? You're always in, specifically, in the space, if we look at ourselves as stars, we're going to get really deep here, really spiritual for a moment. Everybody take a deep breath. We're all stars and we come from stars. We all know that. We're made up of stars. We're star people. We're star seeds, right? But if we look at ourselves like stars and the expansiveness of the universe and all the stars that exist, every star is exactly where it's supposed to be at every single moment. A star is not stagnant in space. It doesn't stay stuck. Stars are spinning, moving, and vibrating along on the grand scheme of things in the universe. We think they're in the same position because when we look up at them, they're in the same position. But just as the planet moves, stars move, revolve, move, spin, right? We all agree with that.
I love that so much.
So we're all stars.
That's awesome.
And we're always right where we're supposed to be in the grand scheme of things, right? There's no star out of place. Every star that exists out there in the universe has a role and has a purpose and has a job in a sense that it's doing. Our sun is a star. It has a very important job that it's doing for our solar system and for this planet. We're no different, and we're always right where we're supposed to be. So you're right, you and Misty are moving in the direction, not just as a couple and in the regards to your family, but as individuals as well. And you're right where you're supposed to be, man. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Misty's struggles and experience in regards to MS and the different things that she's had to go through in life, it's prepared her in regards to who knows what. And you guys are starting to see that and starting to come through that. And I keep burping because I should be drinking water instead of more alcohol.
No, water's bad for you.
One of the things you mentioned, law enforcement gave, because this is something that we haven't covered as well, where we've been talking about some of the, and whether you want to think of them as negative, but some of the shitty things that you've had to deal with as an officer and somebody involved in regards to law enforcement and working in a jail or being a cop or something like that. There's plenty of shitty things that people have to deal with. Wonderful positives, man. Do you know what I mean? Wonderful, good things that come out of it. First off, yours and I's relationship. So Josh and I haven't talked for, 7 years, 8 years.
At least.
Something like that. It's been quite a while. And We've kept in touch over Facebook, like really, really sporadically and periodically, not even, I'll like one of his posts that he throws up or something like that. And then just recently we kind of reconnect and start chatting a little bit. And now Steph and I make the beautiful drive up to your house up here in the beautiful mountains. And
it's incredible.
It's absolutely wonderful. And we get to sit
Pretty
down
cool.
and we've been hanging out for the last few hours. And seriously, like, I feel like time hasn't passed.
No, it was like we've seen each other like last week.
Yeah, it's like I had a day off and then I reconnect with Josh. It's no big deal. So we reconnect. And that bond and that relationship that we have stemmed from what we went through and experienced in law enforcement, in the jail, going through those experiences, not just in the academy, but also working together, and then the shared experience. And the fact is, I mean, nobody's ever going to know what it's like to be a cop or to be working inside a jail as a correctional officer unless you actually do it. Also, I always forget to breathe when I talk. Also, you talked about the fact that you wouldn't be able to do this podcast back in the day where, after going through your career and your experiences, now you have the ability to get up and talk to people and you don't have fear surrounding it. That's huge, man. Yeah. That's one thing that I noticed after leaving law enforcement and getting out of it. It was like, dude, I'm not afraid of anything. And anytime, I mean, I still have fears, plenty of fears, but they're always fears in regards to my own personal stuff, right? Outside world and moving through life and interacting with people and doing things, zero fear. Because as a cop, you didn't have that luxury. Like I said, that the girl stands up at her door and she's got her wrist cut. It's your job to fix that problem. Right. And so it's no different where you have to do things that bring up fear within you and you have to move through them and you have to experience them. And I think that's a wonderful thing to have. That's a great skill set that you now have where it doesn't matter what kind of the world throws at you, you're going to move through it and you're going to be able to do it. A lot of times you clusterfuck your way through it, but you're not fearful, meaning you, I'm going to breathe some more because this is heavy. So no longer are you held back by fear, meaning you're no longer taking action or not taking action because of fear. So in regards to the way that fear affects you in that area, you still have fear in a bunch of other areas, but in regards to moving forward in life and seizing opportunity and doing things, you don't have to worry about that anymore because you have this experience to now draw from where you're like, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be able to do it, and I'm going to get through it, and I know that. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge thing. That's a cool thing.
Well, yeah, and you learn, especially in corrections, for your listeners that don't realize, direct supervision in jails, you are one deputy versus 62, sometimes more inmates at one time, and typically they are all out of their cells, walking around you for 8 hours typically on 12-hour day. They're typically out 8 6 7 8 hours. So you're by yourself around a group of people that do not like you. You have to learn really quickly how to talk to people, and if you can talk to the criminal element, man, everything else is pretty simple. Talks anywhere else or dealing with other people, it is pretty easy. So
it's part of the reason why I think that I'm good at the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's part of the reason why I'm able to kind of converse with anybody. We've had a lot of people on the podcast, a lot of different walks of life and experiences and things like that. And at the end of the day, I can always kind of communicate and talk to them and find some way to communicate. And how many more times can I say communicate? But
I'm counting.
So do you got to communicate?
6.
Communication is so key when it comes to a podcast. But I credit that experience because at the end of the day, too, a lot of times, and especially inside a jail, right? On the road, you got a gun, you got a taser, you got all sorts of tools and things that you can draw from. Inside a jail, 90% of the time, man, you got your words first. That's it.
You do.
And then you got to go fisticuffs and, you got to do whatever you got to do. But at the end of the day, most of the time you have to talk yourself out of whatever the experience it is.
Absolutely. And you don't realize that a lot of these guys that are in jails they're hardened criminals. I mean, they've been through the prison system in multiple states. They come to your jail. They're master manipulators. And they have nothing. I mean, you're literally in a fishbowl. You're the fish sitting at your station, and everybody is watching you all day long. And all they have to do all day, they have nothing better to do but sit and watch you and see your habits, see what you do, see what you're looking at on the computer, see who you're talking to, how you talk to people. And they will manipulate themselves into your life. And, you know, unfortunately, they've taken advantage of a lot of deputies and a lot of officers to because you're stuck in these units with no communication of your peers, really. You're by yourself most of the time. And, you know, it's called, you know, Stockholm Syndrome. You know, you start identifying with the people you're around. So, you know, guys that may be, you know, weaker minded or manipulated easily, they fall into these traps with these guys, and they prey on them. These inmates prey on them, and, you know, they can get you to the point to where you're doing things you normally would not do in your normal life. So it's a constant battle. It's a game 12 hours a day.
It's like the professional sports of mind games. It's like the NBA
really
when
is.
It comes to mind games,
It
right?
is,
Like
absolutely.
It's not the fucking rookies. It's not people playing around in that area. It's people that are professionally skilled at manipulating and altering not only what you do, but your actions and the way that you think, and manipulating you to get what they want.
Exactly. And you sit at this high level all day long at work, and you come home, and that's your time to decompress, and you just decompress. But then the kids want to jump all over you, or the dog wants to go play, or, you know, the wife wants to talk. Wants to talk.
Yeah, she wants to talk.
That's all
You know,
wives
like,
little
wanna
less
do is
animosity there.
talk. No, but that's your time to decompress, and you don't want to make any decisions. You are the guy making the decisions all day long. You come home, the wife says, "What do you want for dinner?" "I don't care." Well, I don't care either. What do you want? I don't care. Literally, you go ahead and make whatever you want. I will eat it. I'm fat. I will eat whatever you make. Trust me, I'll eat anything. But what would you like? I mean, it's a back and forth thing all the time. Look, you make the decisions when I come home. I make decisions all day long, right?
Misty, I want you to talk about that.
Misty's not talking.
Steph's going to jump up because that's a big thing for us.
He said, I am a big talker, especially if something's bugging me or if I'm in a lot of pain. I'll just talk. I'll just throw up at the mouth. And then he's sitting there going, "Oh gosh," and then I'll skip from one thing to another. I don't even stay on the same shit. And he's like, "Okay, so wait, what? Go back to that other thing," if he's even listening, which a majority of the time I don't even know if he is. But so I have to key on when he's
tuned in
and when he's not. Yeah, and some of the things he like. Even coming home from work stuff, it seems he can put a flip on it that makes it seem so minimal. And when I come and talk to him and it's blown up at work, or just I blew it up way out of proportion, and then in like less than 30 seconds he's like, "Why?" and then makes it seem so small, and then I'm like, "Oh, right." So I kind of forgot where I was going with that one. Sorry. But
is it like stuff in your guys' everyday life, like family and kids and things like that you may have blown up into a bigger thing, and he's like, "That's really not a big thing"? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that, or something that may happen at work with the patient, or there was a patient at work that it was like sexual harassment and stuff. And the patient just was very inappropriate with me and stuff that I didn't really say much about, just to my boss, and Josh just flipped on that one. And to me, it wasn't a big deal, but when I had started seeing over the past year, it became very, very big. The patient didn't stop. It got worse, and so it ended up going farther than I wanted it to go, but so the things that I thought were small, he kind of flips to be big, and then vice versa. So, but you know what? He always gets me to the point to where that actually is the one thing that is a good thing that's happened with him being in the law enforcement, is he has grown up a lot. He especially in the last couple of years, I noticed he can just make things not seem as big as I thought they were, and so that kind of has helped. Like even me not feeling very good and stuff like that, he's actually helped me accept the fact that this is what it is, so let's just deal with it and then just move on, kind of a thing. And
what about the whole thing where like he doesn't want to make decisions? Like at the end of the day, he comes home.
That's what we're talking about. Sorry, I knew I was off on the subject, but no, he doesn't. And I'm not a decision maker. He's always been a decision maker the entire time we've been together.
That's the control.
Oh my
part.
gosh, bad.
Holy hell.
Bad.
Holy hell. They
And
give you this much to make a decision, and then when they want you to make this decision, you're so used to not that they're pissed at you for not. Oh, I'm in my square.
Yes,
I'm in my range
I drive
now.
her nuts because I'm
Holy
like,
hell.
baby, you get to decide. Are we going to go
What are we going to eat tonight?
Carl's Jr.
See?
or Papa Murphy's? It's up to you. I'm washing my hands of it. I'm done. You decide. What are we doing? And then I get mad at when she can't decide.
So does he.
And then
I'm
when,
like, I don't
when
care.
she decides,
You
she's like,
literally
I
don't
really
care
feel like
at
that.
that point.
That's kind of a big one.
I think there's go ahead.
You're good. I can't even ask him, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. I mean, it's not even, sorry. It's not even, it is that whole thing. He gives me this just a small, tiny little, okay, it's you decide. But it's very few and far between.
I'm not controlling.
Not like that.
Jeez.
You're not controlling like that. But I'm not
Maybe
used
a
to the
little
fact
bit.
that
Maybe a little bit.
It's
I'm
the
used
law
to
enforcement thing.
I'm
Yeah,
used
it
to
was-
You have to control that. Like you said, your fishbowl, you have to have that element. And when you turn it on and turn it off, that's not a fault on you. You have to have that.
Yeah.
Trying to find that balance sucks and is hard. So that's not saying you controlling piece of shit. No.
Right.
That's you have to do that to stay alive so you come home to your family. Trying to work within that is where it's difficult.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about as a spouse. That's what Misty's going on right now and saying that. It's not that you suck and hey guys, you suck because you do this. No, it's we get it. We want you to have that. We want you to come home to us. But when we ask you what the hell you want for dinner, just tell us.
Yeah.
I know how
Okay.
to make things a lot
Just
easier.
tell us.
Well, normally
Just
I
do it.
Normally I do. I just, I was just trying to make, a point that you're at such a high level of work. And this is just me at the corrections level, you step it up to the guys on the road. There's an element of danger that I work in. Absolutely. I don't have anything. I don't have any tools. I don't have a gun. Okay. So if I can maybe fight off one guy, maybe two, maybe three guys and more, I'm done. I'm dead. If these guys want to take over the unit, there is absolutely nothing I'm going to do to stop them. I have no tools on me other than my radio to call for backup. And if backup gets there before I get my head kicked in, great. If not, I'm at the mercy of the inmate. And that's where communication comes in so important. But, you put these guys on the road, like Craig worked on the road. These guys walking up to cars on the side of the road where you have no idea if they have a gun. You have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, the element of being at that high level all day long, at the level I'm at corrections is, I wouldn't think even compares to these guys that are out on the road. And then they got to come home and it's just like, okay, I'm safe. I can decompress. And then you got, wives yelling at you, I've had the kids all day. It's time for you to take the kids. Or, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And all the guy wants to do is just crack open a beer and relax for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think it goes both ways. I think wives and husbands whose wives are on the road or in law enforcement, I think it goes both ways. You just got to kind of let them decompress for a little while.
Definitely.
I think, we've been talking heavily about, obviously, what it's like to be in law enforcement, what it's like to be married to somebody who's in law enforcement. And I'm happy about that. That's what I wanted. I think that's a good episode. I think it's important for people to hear that, whether they are in law enforcement or not, or whatever the case may be. But all the things that we've been talking about, all the different dynamics of interpersonal relationships within ourselves and also with the people that we love and families and spouses and things like that. We've been talking about it in the space of law enforcement and kind of the effects that it can have. But I think that all the things that we've been talking about, you take law enforcement out of the equation and they're still applicable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fact is, at the end of the day, husband and wives, they have to learn how to communicate.
Absolutely.
It's no different than if you go to work and you have to listen to your stupid fucking boss drive you crazy about whatever report it is that you have to have in by the end of the day and all the stresses of decisions that you have to make, and then you come home and all you want to do is decompress and relax, and then your wife's like, what do you want to have for dinner? You don't talk like that, by the way. And you're like, baby, I don't care what you fucking cook for dinner, just fucking make something. I don't care. Like you said,
how would
I'll
you
eat
say
anything.
that though? You changed that differently. You wouldn't say it like that. So we'd get to a point with, we still have our moments, but when he was overwhelmed with I just want to decompress, he would tell me, I just don't want to make any decisions right now.
Oh.
And that told me, okay, just go, just move, just do, just take care of, and don't ask him what the hell he wants. Just get that. So there was that communication of, I just can't make a decision right now. I don't want to make any decisions right now. I just need that. And so that little bit of a cue was telling me, it doesn't matter if I throw eggs, steak, Spam, cereal, whatever, handle shit and let him have a moment.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you noticed that. And Misty does a really good job of noticing that as well. I know guys whose spouses do not notice it, and I know when they come home, it's just like they're listening to Charlie Brown's parents, wah, 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 wah. That's all they hear, and it's and that's where your highest divorce rate comes in. But I don't mean to. I want to change gears completely because I thought of something that I wanted to tell you guys.
Good.
Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
This was back to, I feel everything was leading up to something, right?
Yes.
Well, I had a dream when I was 15 years old that has been...
Hold on. We're going to transition to dream interpretation. So I'm going to put we're going to play the music. When I go back and edit, we're going to have the dream interpretation music come on.
It's like, ooh.
Yes.
Dream music's awesome.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're good. So I was like 15 years old, and this reminded me of it, because this is a dream that has stuck with me for years. I have never forgotten it, okay? So I was obviously living at mom and dad's house, and I remember coming in, and I went downstairs, and I laid down on the couch to watch TV, and I fell asleep. I was asleep for probably 15 minutes, okay?
So it was a nap during the day.
It was a nap during the day. So I wasn't asleep at night, okay? It was a nap. Anyway, so in the dream, I walk into my parents' house, and I walk into the kitchen, and there's a little boy standing in the kitchen, okay? And I look at this little boy. He doesn't look familiar to me. I don't know who he is. Little tiny boy. And he gestured with his finger. You know how you say, come here, with your finger? That's what he did to me. And I said to him, hey, what are you doing in this house? You shouldn't be here. And he walked to the side, and he walked downstairs into the basement. And that was where my bedroom was when I was growing up, was in the basement. So I walked down the stairs, and I got to the top of the stairs, and he's standing in the hallway to the one side is my bedroom, and to the other side is the pantry, like the 4th level basement. And I said, hey, you need to leave. What are you doing here? And this little boy giggled, and he backed up. And at the bottom of the hallway, there was a big bookshelf. He backed up against the bookshelf. So I walked down the stairs, and I got to the point where he was standing, to where if you went one way, you'd go into my room. If you went the other way, you went into the pantry. Okay. Well, when I got to that point, I remember looking into the pantry, or the pantry, and it was dark. It was black. And I remember hearing screams coming from the pantry. And then I turned into my bedroom, and it was bright, and it was white, and it was very inviting. And I looked back at the little kid, and he said, when it's time, you will know. And I woke up. So when we talked about that, I remembered that dream from when I was like 15 years old. So I just wanted I didn't mean to completely shift gears. I just want to say it before I forgot.
Awesome. When's
anyway.
the last time you thought about that dream?
It's been a while.
Yeah. I told you about it a long time ago, but yeah.
You've heard that before,
probably.
Misty?
Yeah, she's heard it before, but yeah.
Years, maybe?
Probably, yeah, years. Other than when we bring it up right here, it triggered in my head. When I was saying, I think things that I've done in my life, things that me and Misty, I've been with her almost half my life, right. Okay? I think everything that we have done from the time we met to this point.
I think it's safe to say if you guys have been together for 20 years, you're 38 now, right?
Right.
So you're a fucking child when you guys met.
Yeah, pretty much.
We've all got kids, and we realize that they're fucking retarded when they're teenagers. Absolutely. So you were a child when you met.
We were
she's
children.
been with you since you were a child.
When our kids listen, we love
100%.
you.
They
You're our
don't
world.
listen to the podcast.
One day.
Our kids don't get married. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. But
so
no,
you guys have been through a lot and experienced
when we've
a lot.
been through a lot, and then and when I said that I think everything that we've experienced is leading towards something, that triggered that dream that I had 20 plus years ago.
Yes.
You know, and I've never forgotten it. So anyway, I didn't mean to switch gears.
It's a wonderful way to switch gears, baby. You go ahead. I'm going to get us some more drinks. Do it. No, we're not pausing. Then go to the bathroom. Josh and I have already
sorry.
So we went.
Keep going. That is exciting.
I was going to comment on how funny it was that... Go upstairs, though, baby.
You can go upstairs.
I was going to
a cleaner
comment how
bathroom.
funny it was that the guys, you know, we could last all of like 45 minutes before we got to go take a piss, and the women are just champs sitting here.
Oh, yeah, they're...
Because we can't go on a road trip without me stopping every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful transition. I think that, you know, there's lots of things. I asked you, like, when's the last time you thought of that dream? Because from the perspective that I'm sitting at, right? So the way that I think about things and the way that I think about my thoughts. So this is kind of weird and abstract. So I think energy in the universe works in a very specific way. And I think the thoughts that I have, specifically mine and mine alone, the thoughts inside my head that happen, I think that they happen for a reason. So I told you, Misty, earlier how I think that we're always connected, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think we're always connected to the universe. I think that, and whether we want to visualize it as some sort of golden strand of light or energy or whatever that comes down from the cosmos above, I don't care how you visualize it. I just think that we're always, always connected to the universe. And in that flow of energy, the exchange of energy from me to the universe, because I'm giving the universe just as much energy as it's giving me. The universe is spinning and doing the whole job of the universe itself because of what I'm giving it. I play a very important role and key in the universe, just as we all do. But the universe is also giving me information and energy. So I believe that there's times where my brain will go from my thoughts and just the like random ramblings of my shit inside my head, because it's always connected to where suddenly it gets it's really easy to think that suddenly it gets an email. Like 90% of the time my phone is just my phone, and I fuck around and I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and the next thing I know, I get a notification, I get an email from somebody. So I think that my brain works the same way, where a lot of times I'm just rambling through things and I'm surfing Facebook and I'm on Instagram or whatever the case may be. My brain's just processing information throughout my day. And then suddenly it gets an email. It gets a notification from the universe that sends me information. So I think when you suddenly have a memory or a remembrance of some experience from your past, specifically something that you have never forgotten, what'd you say, you're like 15, right?
Yeah, 14, 15, 16.
20
right
plus years
there.
ago.
Yeah.
Something like that, profound, that you remember, because that's a lucid dream first and foremost, right? That's something that has, because if you remember, and I know that you do because you described it, that dream felt different than any other dream. Not necessarily any other dream, but those type of dreams feel different than regular dreams. Lucid dreams feel different. They feel like they're almost more 3D. It's like you go from watching a regular movie to a 3D movie.
Right.
They feel different. So something like that you remember so profoundly has significance. So for whatever reason, the universe, in the grand scheme of things, sees things as the way that they are, sees you, Josh, where you're at right now, sees your state of mind and your flow of energy and the alignment of everything that's taken place over the course of the last 3 years. And now you're at the perfect aligned spot, and Craig and stuff come up out of nowhere and drive up to your fucking house in the middle of nowhere and in the mountains. And the universe says, now it's time to push send on that email, because he needs that memory at this moment, because it's going to be the catalyst for the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3 years. So for whatever reason, you have that dream and that experience way back when you were 15 years old. And there's 1,001 ways to interpret that dream. I could go through and interpret that dream one way. As you're describing it, I'm interpreting it. I'm sure Steph was doing the same thing, where she's thinking about what that dream really symbolizes and means. And you have something all your own in regards to that dream. All those things are right. We said earlier, or I talked to you earlier about how I think that there's multiple reasons for things. So you needed that dream when you were 15. It served a purpose. You may not remember what, but you needed it then. You needed it at periodical times periodical. It's a word, but it's not a word it's appropriate for this
It's a
time.
good word.
But you needed it throughout your life when you would remember it, and you need it now, and it serves a different purpose than it ever has before, where it has more profound effect in regards to the further perpetuation of your life moving forward, because there's going to be symbolism and explanation and answers in that dream. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I have no idea what it means. Even to this day, I have no idea what it means, but I had it and I remember it, and it was literally a course of 15 minutes that it happened. So
and it came up with all that time, and it came up with you now.
Yeah.
And what are you, like, you don't have to share it, but I just want to point out from our conversations earlier, what are you trying to do? What are you mulling around right now? What is in this way? I'm thinking about doing this, but I already said I don't want that. And I'm thinking about doing this. You're at an opportunity of that thing that you want. If you follow your heart, you're going to go. If you follow what you think I need to do and what is expected and what's coming and what my family wants, what's expected, what all the muscle memory in a sense that I know that is expected of me. Yeah, you may live, you're going to go through this. It's going to be, but when you follow your heart and you take that risk, doesn't matter what comes and goes. You guys have already been through the shit. Like, why are you afraid of shit? You've been through it. You survive, you thrive. You can handle shit.
Yeah.
So quit being afraid of shit. Go with what your heart wants and watch it flourish.
Shit.
When it's time, you will know.
Shit's not. Yeah, exactly. Shit isn't what scares me. It's children, it's mortgage, it's bills, it's everything else, that.
What do you want to teach your
in
kids?
This country. Huh?
What do you want to teach your kids? Be a slave or follow your heart?
No, follow the heart. I'm trying to teach my son right now to be an entrepreneur. I have, just up here where we live, he's already going out and working as a 15-year-old kid. He's already got jobs up here on the mountain.
Good. Fucker needs to get out and earn.
Absolutely. But how many 15-year-old boys out there nowadays go out and work? There's not many, okay? I actually had to kind of push him to play baseball this year because he wanted to just kind of practice guitar, and that sounded really guitar. Yeah, he got a guitar. He's learning. He's kicking ass at it, but he wants to go out and earn money too. But that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. I don't want you in law enforcement. I don't. I want you to go out there, start a business, and work. And that's what we're trying to do right now. Is get a business going, get some other things going. We have a few ideas that we're mowing around in both of our heads. I know Misty's been approached to coach people and possibly have me help her. And I think she would be just freaking incredible at it.
I think she would too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, but scared. I guess the biggest word is scared. I don't know what to do. It's here I am. Going on 10 years into a career, halfway to a retirement. And personally, what's a retirement? Yeah, I guess it's free money for the rest of my life, but
no, it is not free.
Well,
you have paid dearly, and your family has paid, and you continue to pay, and you have that. That is not free money. That is not just your time, which is priceless. Portions of you that are gone from you, from your family, from your kids, the issues that you have to deal with from then on. You don't retire and then suddenly all the shit that you've had to see, poof, is gone because you don't have to deal with it. No, that keeps going. That is not priceless.
Right.
That is not free money. That is not free.
I was getting drinks. What I'd miss.
You miss a little bit.
That's good stuff.
So what about the business? So when you say that, and I'm teaching him, hold on.
Okay.
I'm making a point. So you're saying you're teaching him to be an entrepreneur, teaching him about how owning your own business. Don't do that.
Or starting something. I want him to start something on his own. Yeah.
Whatever the heart is.
Both of my children. Right.
It doesn't matter if they start their own business or if law enforcement's their passion or if he's a musician or if they're an artist or they want to do construction and being on a track hoe is a painting for them. Mm-hmm. If when they're carving out a basement, it is art to them. whether they're actually doing that. Just following your heart is where it goes, because
Right.
that's where your heart is and that's what you're doing. So when you have that moment of when the time is right, you'll know. When you got this house, what did you say? It was 4 hours on the market when you saw it?
Yeah, it was.
4 hours. Are you leaving? Yes, I'm taking over the Energy is Love podcast, everybody. It's not going to be the staff show, so hold on.
Me and Misty's, we've actually talked about it quite a bit, that it was, we probably shouldn't have got this place up here. I mean, just with the amount of people that tried to get it, offers that came in on this house and whatnot, I honestly don't get how we got it. I mean, it was divine intervention that it was on the market for 3 hours, just barely put on the internet. I found it. I called Misty. She called the realtor. We came up, looked at it, and I think a week and a half later, we bought it. And now we have a large amount of equity into this home. And I don't know if it was meant for us to get this to stay here the rest of our lives, or get this to give us a large amount of equity to start something that we're supposed to start. Does that
What
make
has
sense?
happened to her health since you guys came up here?
I got better.
It got really good. It got really, really, really good. And then after the hysterectomy, because she had a hysterectomy, she's and she still could be healing from the hysterectomy.
3 month
gotten
time
pretty
frame,
bad.
right? 3
Yeah.
months.
Mhm.
Yeah, give the body a moment, because
Yeah.
not only is that major surgery where she's had, you look at the surgery so much and tonsillectomies, hysterectomies, appendectomies, whatever, that are just routine and whatever. You have a part of your body, a part of you that has been removed. Your body has been cut open. That part has been taken out and removed. So you can't just look at it on a physical moment of healing. She had a portion of her that's going to take a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally give her time
Plus,
for
with everything
that.
else she deals with, it's just going to take that much longer. So, to answer your question, her health got
Thank you.
100 times better because the air up here is cleaner. A lot less stress up here. She's in nature, no neighbors to deal with, all that bullshit.
Or
And
it's
you
what we were supposed
heard-
to do.
The call, and you guys
Right.
listened. You saw it within that time frame, and boom, 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 boom. When the time was right, you knew.
Yeah.
When the time was right, you knew. So there's no guidance here,
Timing's huge.
but
It is.
it's coming up right now for you. You're making decisions, and you're having that dream pop up now. It's up to you what you do with it.
I just wish I knew, and everybody does, but I wish I knew today, when I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But
Not only that, but I think anytime we come across a point in our lives, like a crossroads or something like that, where we have a decision, sometimes it's very clear we have to go left or we have to go right. We always sit in that space of trying to weigh pros and cons and decide what is the right decision. And I honestly, I can sit here and think back over my life, and I honestly can't think of one single time, regardless of what decision it was, whether it was Coke or Pepsi, or, do you know what I mean, left or right, or just this job or that job, or whatever the case may be. I can never think of a decision that I knew 100% was the right decision that I needed to make. Every decision that we face in life, regardless of what it is, on the sliding scale of decisions, right? On the low end or on the high end, every decision that we make, I feel like we get as close as we can to what we feel is the right decision, and then we make a leap. And the closer we can get to what is the right decision, the less fear we have associated with that leap. But on the complete flip side, a lot of times, because there's so much fear involved in regards to decisions, especially big ones that affect our lives and our families and our loved ones, because there's so much fear, which feels like a huge big chasm of the unknown that we have to leap into. In order to make that unknown smaller, we explain and justify and use excuses to make that decision less fearful. And the reality is, I don't ever think that we make the wrong decision. I'm of the belief that every decision we make is the right decision, because we're always right where we're supposed to be. I'm going to burp some more.
except child molesters, that's not the right decision.
I'm going to have to second that.
No matter what.
But when it comes to really difficult decisions, if we can embrace some of that fear and realize that regardless of what decision we make. We're always, like Steph said, like you guys have already been through a lot in your relationship and your marriage. There's nothing you can't experience, right? Make the leap, go through it, and know that regardless of whatever it may bring, you're going to be just fine. And the reality is the fear is typically the fear of the unknown. And every time we move into the space of the unknown, as soon as we step into it, we suddenly see it, right? It's like, I don't want to go into that closet. Your dream's a perfect example. As you're describing your dream, I'm sitting there interpreting it in my own head, through my own filters, through my own understanding. You have two choices in front of you. One's dark, full of screams and darkness and scary, and you don't know what the fuck it is. And one's light, and you can see what it is. There's a good chance, Josh, that the decision before you now, perhaps the dark decision that you can't see, that's full of fear, is the right decision.
Yeah.
But it's simply stepping into the room, reaching your hand over and flipping the light on. And suddenly that room becomes illuminated. And you realize that the screams that you heard inside that darkness aren't really screams. It's the fucking washer that's out of balance. And you just got to go balance it and everything's fine. So
maybe it's your screams of joy. And you're hearing it as something scary because it's dark. And you're like, hell yeah! I fucking did this! Yeah!
So you never know. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think anybody at all, you, Misty, me, staff, people that are listening to the podcast, if you can embrace some of that fear and try to leap into those spaces of decisions that seem fearful, that seem so convoluted and heavy and carry so much weight. And if you just trust in the fact that you're always going to make the right decision, even if it feels like the wrong decision at the time, I think we're going to be okay in the end.
I'm not even scared anymore.
Boom.
I think it like,
boom,
so
boom.
we were talking.
Mic drop.
We were talking the other day about like a goal on when we could get him home away from law enforcement, just getting him home with our business.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's just set a goal for like 2 years. And he's like, 2? Let's look like 5, maybe 8. And I'm like, I can tell he's still just got a lot of just the unknown scaring him, to where I'm just like, let's do this. Let's go.
When did we do
Let's
yours,
do this.
baby?
Let's go. It happened overnight.
I know.
Can
but
I share?
Well, hold on a second. Because like we did ours, like we set a date and I think it was like a year out or like 6 months out.
No, we did 6 months. And then it was, okay, we're not where we were going to be. This is going to come. This is going to come 6 more months. And I'm dying inside as this is going. 6 more months. 6
That
more
makes
months.
me feel great as
And
a husband.
let me express the husband. If I'd have told my husband at that moment how your wife is saying, let's do this. If I would have told him I'm doing this now, you know what he would have said? Let's do this.
Let's do it.
I'm saying 6. He's giving me the 6 months to give me time because I am work oriented. I am providing for my family. This is what is expected of me. And by God, I'm going to do this. And I know what I'm supposed to do. And I know how it works. My parents showed me how to work. And I am showing my kids how to work. I am showing my kids how to do it this way, to where it is devastating to your soul. He gave me the 6 months that excited me, scared me, and pissed me off. Because he knows that if he tells me at this moment to quit, I'm going to tell him, that's not happening. I just flipped him off. Yeah, exactly. When it all came about, it hit. It hit. I was saying in the shower.
Stop banging on the table.
I'm so feeling it. I'm banging on the
into
table.
it, man.
I'm sorry. I'm stop. All that bam, bam, bam isn't the editing. It's the crazy wife feeling all the emotion. So I know that's going to drive you crazy. I'm sorry. It hit. In the shower, finally made the decision to tell him, not asking him, not seeing what he thought of it, which isn't like me because we know how we talked about law enforcement and they control the situation. I wasn't checking in with him of where he was. I was telling him, and the support he gave me was just profound. It was there. I didn't need it at that moment. But oh my God, I had all of it. I had every bit that I never thought I would have. The next day, I go in and put in my notice. I've only been there for a little over 5 years. I've promoted hard. I've worked hard. I've went up. Having the conversation with my lieutenant, she didn't want me to go. And she expressed to me very, very strongly about the promotions that were in my near future. Sticking it out. I knew that my heart wasn't there. I knew it wasn't healthy for me. There's stuff that we didn't discuss with me that I have to deal with, that I have to go through, that I have to figure out how to work through. But I listened to my heart and what I actually want to teach my kids. I don't want to teach my kids to be slaves. I want them to work hard for what they want and to go for it and to believe in themselves. But I don't want them to work hard for something that is what they're supposed to do because somebody once told them that.
Right.
Now, safety net for you to think about, because I went over everything, because I had a great lieutenant and she was giving me every opportunity to stay. She was throwing offers at me that was wonderful, but my heart already knew. You're invested. You don't lose your pension. Your URS is there. You've got almost 10 years. You are invested. So when you turn, I think, 65, you're still going to get a portion of that. In the event that you take this jump, I don't want you to think of your safety net because I want you to have that in your area as a crutch. But you take this leap, you go for what you want. Say it doesn't work. Say you don't really want to jump into it. You only half-ass jump into it because what if? So we'll put that out there. Your pension doesn't go anywhere. You go back, you start with that. You're not starting at ground zero. You have this almost 10 years to go from. You have that in the bank. Mm-hmm. You don't need that. Right. Listen to your wife when she's saying it's time. I pushed him off. He told me it's time. I pushed him off because I knew what I needed to do. I needed to provide. I need bullshit.
Fear.
I held on to fear like it was the whoopee from that you need when you were a kid.
That's scary. I mean, you have a security blanket. You have your your budget and everything going through it, and you got to start completely over for something that you don't know 100% is going to work out. But I would rather take a risk now than regret, 30 years down the road of not trying something. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
We are coming up on 2 hours, which is absolutely wonderful.
It's been 5 minutes.
We've
I don't know.
accomplished the unknown feat of having the longest Energy is Love podcast ever. So
Boom.
Thank you very much, all three of you. So we're going to wrap it up, by the way. If you can't tell, this is my thank you everybody for coming and visiting and listening to the show, but we're going to wrap it up. But when we wrap it up, or before we wrap it up, I want to give everybody the opportunity. We're all wise people, right? We're all in our mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s. None of us are that old. We're all really close. We're in our mid-30s, we'll just say. We've got kids. We've lived a lot of life experience. There's people out there that I think could benefit from advice from us. So we're going to go around the table. And Misty, I want to start with you. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about it as I sit here and continue to drag on this question. I want us to all go around the table, and if we could impart one piece of advice, one word of wisdom, one thing that you would give to whether it's your children or the younger generation. Or the beautiful thing about podcasts is they go out there into the universe and they stay out there forever. So somebody may listen to this 5 years from now, or God willing, even longer than that. Not God, universe willing, even longer than that. So one piece of advice that you would impart out there into the cosmos as far as people moving forward in life. Just something simple. Like I said, it doesn't even matter what it is.
I would say give yourself value.
Yes.
That's good. Value who you are. Give yourself
Absolutely.
value. Good job. Baby?
Me?
Yes, Steph.
Fear is not meant to hold you back. Fear is meant to fuel you. So when you have that moment where fear creeps in, say hell yeah and go for it.
So fear is a catalyst for change. Movement forward. Fear is a catalyst for
I don't
evolution.
like catalyst. I don't like that word.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
Fear is fuel. Hell yeah.
There you go.
Just do it. That's Nike. Don't do it. Hold on. Let me think of something else. Go for it.
Go for it. Joshua?
Well, I guess if I was to say something, all you young bastards out there,
Sons of bitches.
Yeah. Don't worry about family. Don't worry about religion. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about all the stupid shit that's out there. If you're young, if you have an idea, if you have something you want to strive for, go for it. Don't give a shit about anything else. You don't want to get almost 40 years old and regret not trying something at a young age. Jump on it now, kick it in the nuts, If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Go for something else. Just try something.
It's good. These are all wonderful, beautiful pieces. God, I had mine. My original one was just the dumb generic energy is love. It's not dumb and generic.
No,
It's a good
that's-
one, but
Energy is
oh fuck. Oh, I'm so pissed.
Can you edit it in when you remember?
I'm trying to remember it because I can cut all these silences out, all this shit out.
Power of rum.
There you go.
I got it.
To you.
I finally got it. So my advice to the up-and-coming generation, or anybody out there listening by any means, it applies to the people that are old too. Put yourself first. Self-love. It's the biggest component I think that's missing across the board in regards to every aspect of life and relationship and everything that we do. We put ourselves second, third, fourth, fifth, and last a lot of the times. And if we could learn to put ourselves first and foremost and love ourselves the most, and use that as an example for our children and for our loved ones and for our friends and for our coworkers and everybody out there in the universe, that if you love yourself the most, and not in the selfish, shitty, self-conceited, terrible way that we all are overly familiar with, but in the pure, genuine way of true self-love, I think that everybody would do a lot better. So, having that said, thank you very much, Misty. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You guys have a beautiful home.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we love it up here.
Up here.
These guys live up in a beautiful cabin up in the.
I think I need to move in.
Along the Wasatch Mountains up in Utah. It's just absolutely beautiful up here. And everybody out there in the universe, thank you very much for listening. And it's the Energy is Love podcast. Everybody have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful day.
We're all just trying to fix everything and forget to look at ourselves and what we need to fix within.
Thank you for listening, everybody. We really love the support. Appreciate everything you do. Make sure you jump over to entheozen.com and go visit our sponsor for the podcast. Go to Amazon, search Entheozen, find their products. When you go to checkout, make sure you enter the promo code ENERGYIS and save 10%. Go show them some love and support from the podcast. Remember, entheozen.com, nutritional solutions for balancing the mind and body.